are reading How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And we are reviewing part 2, chapters 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 1 is Do This and You'll Be Welcome Anywhere. Chapter 2 is a simple way to make a good first impression. And chapter 3, if you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Chapter 3 was probably my favorite. I think it was quite eye-opening, but we will jump right in. So in chapter 1, he starts the chapter off talking about how animals have to survive and how an animal or a dog only has to survive by giving its owner love, right? Like that's its kind of its only thing that it has to do, and it's going to get rewarded from its owner by being affectionate and loving. And he kind of talks a lot about like having to like people, right? Like dogs that like us initially. They're happy to see us. Doesn't matter if we're ugly, doesn't matter if we're old, doesn't matter if we're yelling and screaming or mean. I mean, they don't want to be yelled and screamed at, but um, they just give you unconditional love. And he really starts to talk about the value of that in business and how being nice to people actually creates a loyal following. So as you guys were reading this, what did you think about this chapter and how did it feel as far as thinking about it in your business?
Yeah, just like every chapter in this book so far, it's been super easy to read and loved it. And this chapter was no different about, I like how you put the remind us of about the dog, but it is that unconditional love and just the constant, each of his stories that he shared throughout this chapter about the impact that it made. Even he'd have conversations with people and not say more than 2 words, but just because he showed interest, it built interest in himself and people followed him that way. And it had me thinking about my day-to-day activities and people I interact with and how easy of a method it is, but we probably often don't think of it because, like you said, the number one word used is I. And if we can break that, then it should be something easy to implement.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I definitely, not interesting, but it was a good comment as far as when you're kind of working with people, kind of, taking away some of the selfishness in general. I mean, we're all in here for, obviously everybody wants to be selfish, right? But then how to be really selfish is to make other feel wanted, so they want you. And now all of a sudden you're kind of doing that for yourself anyway. But again, it's kind of recognizing the fact that we're all kind of this way and kind of opening the door. And hey, by the way, I think you're just as important as me. Yes, I want something, but before we get to what I want, let's kind of open the door to how important I think you are, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. He talks in this chapter about the debate with the guy that was like so upset that these big chain companies wouldn't buy gas from him, and he was like slamming them, slamming them, slamming them. So the author's decision or perspective was, well, let's do a debate, and why don't you defend the big chain companies? And so I thought it was cool that the guy went to the big chain and got their perspective. And next thing he knew, he actually walked out with a sale, which wasn't actually his intention at all. And I think his little greet people with interest, and enthusiasm and become genuinely interested in others. We take a course in KW called Bold, and one of the things that we learn in that course are to get rid of 2 words in your vocabulary, and they're I and but,
Hmm.
right? I makes you interested in only you, and you will only be a good sales agent if you are interested in others, is kind of the perspective and the teaching. And the word but negates whatever's in front of it. I'm sorry, but I love you, but this house is great, but list with me because it's awesome here, but, right? And so they tell you to kind of remove both of those words from your vocabulary for that reason, because people most of the time are truly only interested in themselves. And if you give them a platform where they can talk about themselves, it turns into a long conversation.
Right.
Yes.
And about
So these chapters were, go ahead.
I was just going to add to, like, you know, on a personal level, when you're hanging out with friends and all they do is talk about themselves, you find, like, you know, you don't want to be friends with that kind of a person. And so it's definitely a skill, not just professionally, but personally too, to try and hone in on. But everyone's at a different level of where they're at on that scale.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When you talk to people that just like to talk about themselves, they always get the name, oh, they're the one-uppers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I guess reading this chapter kind of, you know, to your point, Natalie, puts that definitely in perspective for me, because it's like, I don't want to be a one-upper. I actually want to be a very good listener. You
Yeah.
know, and so
At
I
least an
think that
equal.
kind Mhm. And I think for all of our businesses, I mean, you know, Craig, as an attorney, you have to listen, you have to give feedback back to people, and really take into consider what they want, and be genuinely interested in what they want. And same thing with, you know, you and I, and with Dave and Natalie, it's like our businesses require that the genuine interest in the other person. You will win a listing or a buyer if you are interested in them. And one of the best ways in sales to make a sale is to listen and be genuinely interested, because if you're listening and you are interested, you learn their motivation. Why are you selling? Why are you moving? And a lot of times that question will actually get you the deal. I mean, as Craig and I are interviewing these CPA teams that we're interviewing, none of them have listened. And it's been my biggest frustration. Every time we get off the phone, it's like, did they hear what I said in the first sentence? I'm not looking for somebody who can help me save. And they're not genuinely interested in my objectives. They're only interested in getting a new client.
Sure.
Right. I think the first person that's genuinely interested and at least makes an effort to do what we want them to do probably will get our business.
Well,
So Dave, and we will let you catch up. We were kind of talking about the first chapter, dogs give nothing but love, and how being genuinely interested and having enthusiasm in other folks' lives, you're muted if you start talking, can help grow your business as a salesperson or a person who makes their living interacting with other people. Thoughts, comments, concerns, points?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was actually talking with Lexi yesterday. You know, she's still considering a transition out of being a teacher. And so I was thinking about this book because she was saying, you know, oh, well, I'm just so not good at like marketing and sales and yada yada yada. And I was just like, it may be a little bit easier than you're kind of making it out to be, because honestly, if you just show interest in folks, they'll tell you all the stuff you need to know about what it is they need. And all you need to do is listen and say, oh, well, I know how to do that if you need help with that. Just saying, you know, and so that's exactly what he's kind of talking about through here. And I love how he kind of relates it to dogs, you know, like their job is to get love from us or to give us the love, but they just showed so much interest. And it's just like, I feel like, you know, people say dogs can't really understand what we say, but they do understand body language, right? And it's just because they have full, complete interest in you, and they know, they just know.
I agree at 1,000%. All right, any more on chapter 1, section 2? Nope. All right, the next one, your facial expression is worth more than your clothes. So this is a lesson that I have heard repeatedly over my life, not just for in sales, but for in any business. Your smile is contagious. It is free, it costs you nothing, and it can change the trajectory of a conversation or a relationship like that. People who smile manage to teach at a much higher level I think that's because people enjoy looking at you, right? If you've got a professor who's up there teaching or one who's up there like excited with energy, it's just so much more captivating. So something that I had always been told, and again, we learned this in bold, like when you're on the telephone, you should actually have a mirror sitting at your desk, looking at yourself, because your smile is infectious and it comes across the phone, even if they can't see you. So you should have that as a reminder to see yourself all the time. And then in this one, he starts talking about how he would get up in the morning and smile and say good morning to his family. So not only was it something that worked in business, but it's something that also worked on a personal level. So smiles bring dollars. What is y'all's opinion on that statement?
I actually loved hearing about that. And I feel like it's true. You know, how many people do you usually try and run away from when they've just got like a frown on their face and they've been bitching and complaining about all the problems they have? It's just like, oh, you're cool to hang out with, but I'm a disappear for a little bit. You know, but the reverse of that, like the people that always just come in and have so much energy and like, you know, so much life and just so much positive attitude, don't just want to be around them. And it's just like if you kind of think about, you know, what he was talking about in chapter 1, you know, taking an interest in people and, you know, it's like, well, when you smile, honestly, there's more people around you. It's just so much easier to expand your network at that point. And then all you have to do is just take an interest, right? And then people will just, I guess, continue flocking at that point, you know? So I thought it was kind of cool. And then he was, like, to your point, was relating it to, you know, the more smiles you give, the more dollars that kind of associates to it. I'm like, wow, you know, I'll probably be smiling a little more often. You know? Kind of thinking about it like that. But no, I love that point.
I think it comes naturally to some because I think like David, you probably smile a lot, whether you intend to or not, but it's a natural thing for you. And I think a lot of people associate with being kind too. So your smiling gives you kindness and so people are attracted to that too. And so that's an easy transition there. I don't know. I think I've never really had too much of a hard time smiling all the time, but it is something that it's the worst feeling though is when you smile at somebody and they're still grumpy and crabby at you and don't reciprocate it or even be kind back to you. Those are the hard ones to deal with.
Understand that.
Usually it's
Yeah, it's
cashiers.
definitely disarming in the sense of it takes people off of an aggression right off the bat, you know. And so it definitely opens the door. That generally, in my opinion, when you're kind of having the tone of the voice and even a smile, like a smile in the voice tone, right? Not only are you got the expression and kind of seeing that, but even talking with excitement and talking with happiness, if you will. You know, it is happiness is contagious, right? So people like want to be happy with you and they want to be smiling with you and things along that nature. You know, it'd be like, oh, your grandpa just died. I'm so sorry. Like if people didn't want to smile back at you because they see you smiling, right? It could be the worst thing in the world, but just subconsciously, oh, smile, I should be happy. I should be wanting to do things like that. So it's definitely it's one of those kind of backdooring into subconscious. So yeah, it definitely works well, in my opinion.
It's also linked to I think your personal happiness too. If you're happy, you're going to
Yeah,
naturally smile more.
I agree with
Yes.
that.
Yes. Well, I truly believe happiness is a decision. It's up to you whether you're happy or sad in whatever moment. He actually kind of talks about this towards the end of the chapter, that actions and feelings go together, and you are as happy as you make your mind up to be. It is totally up to you. And so like, you know, I would challenge everyone, especially Natalie, who's trying to pick up some new clients, right, and build that database. When you're in the grocery store, turn around and smile at the person behind you. $5 as a conversation gets started, and $5 as you end up with that person's phone number before you leave, right? They may not be looking to buy a house, but if you right now today, but at some point they will be, and at some point they will know someone who is. And you know, I can attest to this. Like I am a resting bitch face human. Like probably because 9 times out of 10, there's 900 things on my brain, but I'm going to try very hard to be very cognitive, because I know the phone trick. I know the, in front of my clients and, those kind of things. But I do think I'm going to start trying to implement this in all areas and aspects of my life. Because when you smile at someone, they say smiling at someone could literally just walk someone off the ledge from taking their own life. That's how infectious a smile is. So to implement that in our business, huge, right? Huge.
Mhm.
So awesome. The last two chapters were kind of short a little bit. Any more on the impact of smiling in your business and in your day-to-day lives? Awesome. Well, then we will move on. All right. The next one, super important. Know someone's name. So I actually took a class about this at one of the EXPCon events that I went to. They had somebody come in who actually did an entire 2-hour presentation on the value of remembering someone's name. And he was like, he was some memory world champion. You could give him, I think, 250 names and he could tell you everyone's name. Within, like, you could give him the 250 names in like a 5-minute time frame. And he demonstrated right for us. He had, I think, 100 people stand up in the room. Took about 3 minutes to learn everyone's name, and then gave us the tricks on how, he, I don't know, associated. He made us name something in every corner of the room. It was a whole process. But the whole presentation was on how important remembering someone's name is and how that impacts somebody. And he tells the story about the person who just went by a nickname, right? Because no one could remember or pronounce their name, and the impact that had when he was addressing that person by their full name. And then he tells a little story about the kid who needed food for the rabbits. So he talked all the neighborhood kids into gathering clover to have a rabbit named after them, and kind of gives the examples about names on buildings for donors. I was talking to someone last night who owns a rescue group, and we were actually talking about this exact thing. She owns a rescue group. She's looking to move the farm. She's got about 90 acres that will potentially be selling and moving her to something that's a little more conducive. She found out she's got a really rare muscular dystrophy diagnosis, and it's not just muscular dystrophy. It's like I don't know, an elevated. It's going to be a hard life, right? Like her life is only going to get harder, especially for movement and just being able to do things. And she has spent the last 30 years rescuing animals and doing it out of her own pocket, right? She's very proud of the fact that she did it out of her own pocket. And she was asking me some questions about 501(c)(3)s and what my opinion was. And the first thing I told her, I was like, girlfriend, let's go buy the new property. Dave and you and I need to have a conversation about this offline anyway. We might be roping you into this project. But we were talking about how, people will donate, and the only thing they're looking in response, a lot of times if they're larger donors, is their name on something, right? They feel like that, I guess, memorializes them even after death, right? It's a legacy to leave behind, and your name is that legacy. And so putting that legacy on something is huge. My mom, when she got sick with cancer, one of the biggest fears was being forgotten. And so I think this chapter really reiterates the importance of that and what that does mentally to somebody. What did you guys think as y'all were kind of reading through this when it was so short?
So I'm not gonna lie, I got kind of excited when he started talking through, like, because he gave a couple of examples of how people would, like, in history have gone through and just remembered names, and it was almost broken down into a system. So it was like, because I'm sorry, when he first started talking in the chapter, he was talking about how names are really powerful and how to remember now. It's like, oh man, like that's something I guess I gotta get good at, and so it was kind of nerve-wracking at first until he started to break it down, and then it was just like, oh wow, I guess, like, if I just have like my own system, whether it's, keep a little card in my pocket and then like write down some names in my CRM afterwards, or, to his point, associating certain facts or certain things or certain surroundings to people's names. And I was like, wow, I guess it's not quite as hard if you think about it that way. And so I was just getting kind of excited and trying to come up with different ways that I could like almost make my own system. But I don't know. I mean, it's true, honestly, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard David, or um, something just off the wall. And it's just like, oh, hi to you too. My name's David. And it's just like, I guess the first time it's not that big of a deal, but even still, it's just like, oh, it's not my name, and then anytime after that, if you can kind of continue to get the same thing, you just kind of think to yourself, maybe they don't care, and who wants to work with that? I don't want to work with someone that doesn't care. So, which I feel like that's just the impression that they gives off, whether that's true or not. That's, I don't know. I just, the chapter was kind of funny to me. So,
No, you're right. You're instantly offended when somebody missays your name or calls you something wrong, and it's like it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah, to David's point, I get called Lori, Lauren, like, and it is frustrating. And I'll tell you, you can take it one further. If you want to kick ass in business, remember someone's kid's name. Like, just take that one step further and remember their little one, right? Like, when I see a client for the second time and I'm like, oh, hey, little Johnny Smith. Like, you just see the parent light up because that's a name they picked, right? That's not just their name. That's a name that they gave someone. And so that kind of definitely takes it a step further.
Yeah, it's you're right. Like, it is impressive when somebody remembers your child's name, because most of the time you just assume they don't have much value or interest in that piece of your life, and so when they do take the time to remember, that's so true. Yeah, this chapter was interesting about the naming convention, because you kind of forget how important it is to them. He also said about birthdays, and try to get somebody's birthday out of them, and how nowadays it's easier to remember people's birthdays with Facebook, but you have to be friends with them on there too. But it's so easy to do, but like, I have clubs that I attend during the week, and to go there and not be able to remember somebody's name exactly, it's like, no, you got to make that a priority and make sure that you know each of their names, so when you do see them out on the streets or out in public, you're quick to say their name.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought the birthday thing up. I totally forgot about that part in here, but I agree with him. I will tell you, we have started implementing handwriting birthday cards to clients. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard the Red Sea, Blue Sea comparison. And I don't remember which is which, so I'm probably gonna fuck this up. But like, to your point, Natalie, if you're in the Red Sea, you're not standing out, right? Like, you're in the sea with everybody else. So on Facebook, if you're trying to remember someone's birthday, well, if they have 500 friends, 499 of them are putting a post on their wall that just says happy birthday, right? So you kind of get lost in that Red Sea. And remembering their birthday and taking it a step further than everybody else, right? And before Facebook, the birthday, I think, was an easy one. That did put you in the blue sea, because remembering birthdays was hard. Most people didn't. To your point, now everybody does remember it because Facebook remembers it for you, right? We have AI technology that's remembering it for us. And so I think as technology grows and makes it easier for us to make people feel special, those of us that are going to do things at a high level need to function in that blue sea, right? And so when I'm remembering a birthday, I don't post on your wall. You're actually going to get a video message from me, right? My face, your name. Natalie, happy birthday. I hope it was amazing. I hope it was awesome. And I'll tell you, if you watch on Facebook, and we also do a handwritten letter as well that goes out, but that usually goes out at the first of the month. So it may not come in on their exact birthday. I also send out through my CRM, we get the CRM to send a text message. But at the bottom of the text message, it says, to stop being part of this text message chain, reply stop. And it's funny to me because on that birthday message, people will reply, stop, but I'll get a phone call from the same person. It's like, oh my God, you wrote me a card for my birthday. Thank you for remembering. And when you see the post on Facebook now where people are thanking people for remembering their birthday, you see them point out, thank you for the post, the messages, the calls, like they're giving us that data that's important to them.
That's true.
I feel like birthdays can be such an easy way just to kind of stay connected with folks. Even before thinking through like, the Red Sea and the Blue Sea, how easy is it to forget a birthday? Then at that point you're in either sea.
Right.
But then to you guys' point with Facebook, I mean, it can be so easy nowadays, depending on the birthday, honestly, like, by default, to Laura's point, I will kind of jump on there and just say happy birthday, and then whatever their name is. But depending on who it is, I'll generally pick up the phone and call, whether I'm just leaving a voicemail or they don't pick up and I just text them, whatever it is. Because then from there, to Laura's point, everybody else is also posting on their Facebook. What's the chances they don't even see yours? But if you call them, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I just talked to you. I know you heard.
Well, and a lot of times I don't think people respond to all the happy birthday posts on their wall because they get so many. But when you pick up the phone, you send the message or you handwrite the card, that prompts that conversation, right? They are going to reach back out to you because you're floating around in the blue sea like nobody else.
Right.
Yep.
Or very few people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't check because I don't want to see how unpopular I am. It's very depressing when you only have like 50 people that say something and everybody else is like thousands.
You have to say happy birthday first, baby.
Yeah, but so all these are wonderful points for things that I guess I just don't care about people that I know on Facebook other than like 2 people. Then I just call them or I say, hey babe, happy birthday. Anyway.
So it would be interesting because this book is there's another revision of it, The Digital Age, and it would be interesting to see how he addresses this and smiling and name remembrance and in that digital version of the book.
Because I mean, I think to that point, you got to be careful in the digital age with some of this stuff. Because again, I'm kind of making light of the fact that the Facebook stuff, but it is so commonplace, and it is so like, okay, everybody remembers Facebook birthdays because all you do is go boom, 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 right? I think you even do it like in the morning, like click, 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 and it just sends a happy birthday to everybody else. Now, to Laura, I mean, as far as what you do, takes it to that next level. Okay, everybody gets the happy birthday click, right? Where you say, let me record a video and send them a video message, right? Which is different than everybody else is doing. So, kind of the same thing to your point of the digital age. And kind of changing how you do those things, right? And normally happy birthday would be great, but now it's okay. Not just happy birthday because everybody does this Facebook. It's got to be something a little bit different than just your standard happy birthday.
Natalie, it's funny you bring up the new book, and I may read it now that you bring that up because I've got a person on my Facebook page that I follow, and I love her posts because she's always so positive, like everything, and she's funny, right? She makes fun of herself, and she's a good human, right? Just everything good about her. But her post this morning, and she probably posts 4 times a week, which I don't know if y'all have noticed, I've been doing myself, of just her face. And a lot of times it's her face with a smile on it. And it's the reason she's smiling, right? So this morning her post was she's been with her high school sweetheart since high school, and we've known each other since high school. So they've been together for going on 30 years now. And her mother-in-law passed away a few years ago. I think Micah was maybe the only child. Like, I don't think her husband had siblings. So Sarah has taken his parents on as her own, right? She's an amazing, amazing daughter-in-law. And since the mother-in-law passed away, she now takes care of Marvin, who is very sick. Like his prognosis was not good, and he's beat everything. Like the doctors are like, I don't fucking know. He's just gonna live forever, right? But he still has a lot of challenges, and one of them has been he's been in either ICU or rehab since the Friday after Thanksgiving, I think. And so this morning, she posted a picture of herself with a big smile on her face and just wrote on there, you know, despite this nasty, crappy weather, we are finding a reason to smile today because for the first time in months, Marvin, Miracle Marvin, I think is what she calls him, is coming home. And I looked at a lot of posts this morning, a lot, right? I respond and interact with at least 20 posts in the morning before 9 o'clock. The only post I can remember was hers.
Wow.
The smile on her face and the you know the interest she's taking in Marvin and the fact that she's sharing it because now we're all vested. We all want to know what's going on with Miracle Marvin. And it, you know, wasn't a picture of him or it wasn't a picture of you know, it's just a picture of her. And her makeup was, I mean, she was dressed this morning, but she's not always dressed. Like some mornings she's like, you know, and she'll still post that picture and it's always her smiling. And when I think of Facebook, I think of Sarah. And guess what? Sarah's in sales. She owns multiple businesses that she sells stuff, and I now buy makeup from Sarah. Like my eyelashes. It's her
Yeah.
mascara.
Looks good.
You
When I
know, and
open Facebook, I think of Laura, who I buy houses from. So I guess it works.
yeah, I mean, so I'm so excited to, I think all of this stuff is probably stuff we all know. It's just a good reminder of, you know, in giving it a definition and a description on how we should implement it in our day-to-day work and life. Awesome. Anything else on these 3 chapters? No, I think that kind of covers. Say again?
I'm saying I don't think so.
Perfect. All right. So the chapters are a little bit shorter in time. If we read 4, 5, and 6 in section 2, that gives us right under an hour. Do you guys, which will make for a little bit shorter discussion next week, do you guys want to just kind of stick with those 3, or do we want to move over into section 3, chapter 1 as well?
I'd be down for chapter 1 and section 3. That's 1 vote out of 4.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I think we're going to see that a lot. There's a lot of short chapters in the balance of the book. So we can start the next section.
Yeah, so let's just read the next 4 chapters. So that's chapter 4, 5, and 6 in section 2, and then chapter 1 in section or part 3. I wish they just gave us chapters. I hate when they make it difficult. Jerks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see y'all next Tuesday. Dave, and I'll see you in 22 minutes.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
See y'all.